So do you watch The Big Bang Theory? Maybe this doesn't seem like a strange question, but to me it became strange last summer when I was asked it over and over and over again, not in America, but in China. During my time in China, I planned to be a volunteer English teacher at a kids' English camp, and I chose Disney's Frozen for my theme. I thought I might be introducing this theme to my students for the first time, but within an hour of arriving in China, I saw a giant Frozen poster in the Beijing airport. Sure enough, when I introduced the theme to my students, several little girls enthusiastically started singing Let It Go right along with me. And Let It Go was not the only American song that I heard during my time in China. As I walked the streets of major cities, I often heard songs by Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and other American artists mixed right in with Chinese music. These experiences struck me as odd because these were elements of culture that I saw as distinctly American, things I expected to bring with me to China. But when I arrived, they were already there waiting for me, ready to serve as a foundation for building relationships. I've been researching the relationship between the United States and the People's Republic of China at a governmental level recently, and what I've found is that since the beginning in 1949, there's been a constant thread of tension based on vastly different ideologies and shifting power between the governments and the economies. But while I was singing Let It Go with my English students, I couldn't find that tension for myself. And when my Chinese friends introduced me to elements of their culture, from food to shopping to music, I couldn't find the tension there either. So how did we get past this tension that definitely exists between our governments? Honestly, the foundation for this was laid by mass media. As I thought about how mass media impacted building relationships while I was in China, I started to see it as part of a larger picture of personal representation through media. People can not only be represented by mass media, but by social media as well. And the more I thought, the more I saw the positives and negatives of both. In my experience, the connections made over elements of mass media like Frozen and The Big Bang Theory are usually positive. But unfortunately, mass media can also lead to misunderstandings between countries, or even flat-out misrepresentations. Chimamanda Adichie talks about this in her groundbreaking TED Talk called The Dangers of a Single Story. When Chimamanda left her home in Nigeria to come to the United States for college, she says her American roommate's default position toward her as an African was a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. Her roommate knew about the poverty and the wars and the AIDS epidemic sweeping through the continent of Africa. But Chimamanda asks, what if my roommate knew about the heart procedure that was performed in a hospital in Lagos last week? What if my roommate knew about Nollywood, full of innovative people producing films despite great technical odds, films so popular that they truly are the best example of Nigerians consuming what they produce? Here in America, many of us have what Chimamanda calls a single story of the struggles that exist in Africa. But we don't often hear the stories of Africa's triumphs and successes. And these stories are just as important for us to hear. As Chimamanda says, the single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. If we only interact with another culture through mass media, especially another culture with less global power than our own, then we are also in danger of only hearing and believing a single story. As I thought about mass media, I started to think about how social media impacts these relationships also. And in the context of social media, I found another tense political relationship that also does not represent both parties of people on either side. The Facebook community Israel Loves Iran describes themselves as a bridge in the Middle East between the people. Not the governments, but the people. With a medium like Facebook, this is possible. The movement already has over 120,000 followers, and it has led to relationships being developed in real life in addition to online. And social media can also be used to develop positive intercultural relationships in a more general sense. There was a study done in 2011 that was led by professors from the University of Maryland and Bowie State that tested just this. The study used students ages 14 to 17 from 3 different countries and had them try out social media as a way of getting to know each other. And the study indicated very positive results in this direction. But just as social media can be used to build up positive relationships, it can also be used to broadcast words that tear relationships apart. One medium that is particularly vulnerable to being used for venting hateful words is Yik Yak, an app that allows users to anonymously share posts with other users nearby. An analysis of Yik Yak from the Journal of Higher Education found that it is very easy to use for cyberbullying and also for venting racist thoughts. In fact, at Colgate University, racist posts on Yik Yak were cited as one of the reasons that students staged a sit-in last year to address what they saw as institutionalized racism at their university. And although Yik Yak's anonymity makes it particularly vulnerable to this, hateful words can be found all throughout the realm of social media. Anita Sarkeesian has been a pioneer in fighting sexism in the video game industry for the past few years, and her work has drawn hateful comments in all kinds of mediums. Earlier this year, she decided to chronicle just 1 week of hateful comments directed toward her on Twitter, and she posted the results on her personal blog. In the first day alone, she received 23 tweets that included threats of violence, degrading personal descriptions, and insulting words. And that was just the first day. Even though these users are easily identifiable, they're still using the medium of Twitter to spew hateful comments at someone they disagree with. Even more personally, those of us who've used Facebook can probably relate to seeing angry comment threads develop over sensitive issues. And probably more of us than would like to admit it have actually participated in these angry comment threads at one time or another. So we can see that whether the medium is the government or mass media or social media, all of these things are simply tools that people use to represent their position, for better or for worse. The major difference of social media is that it places this power of representation directly into the hands of individual people to build bridges or to burn them. Social media increases the distance of representation. So in a negative sense, it allows us to distance ourselves from the natural negative consequences of venting our hate and anger online. But in a positive sense, it also allows us to demonstrate love to people whom we would never be able to interact with in real life. And the freedom of expression helps us to guard against the dangers of a single story. So, whether the medium is social media or mass media or anything else, building positive relationships requires a commitment to listening and to loving and to self-control. These are decisions made by people, not by methods of communication. In closing, I would like to leave you with this thought. As the world grows smaller and smaller, the immense power of personal representation is in your hands, and it will only continue to grow. So what will you do with it? Thank you.